Hello, welcome everyone to another episode of Mayo Agency podcast and YouTube channel. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode today. Wow, today we have a double dose of Philip. We have two Philips today on the show, right? You all, most of you already know my friend Filip Zolota, the CEO owner of Mayo Agency, but we also have a new Philip who is a data analyst in continuous pursuit of knowledge. And we're going to have a very interesting conversation in today's podcast about specifically data analysis, right? And his experience in that field. So really excited to get into it. Why don't we start, Philip, with you telling us a bit about your background, right? So that way the audience could get a more context before we actually get into some of the more deeper stuff. How did you get into data analysis?
Well, for starters, I come from Croatia and I studied psychology. And back then, in the days when I was studying psychology, we were actually trained to do a lot of research and we were trained to do a lot of science. And what you would consider of a psychology study is that you would understand people, but on the way on my psychology studies, I learned how to do research methodology and multivariate statistics. So this was the time of my period of life when I actually realized that I like to do data analytics, research, science, exploring things in the world around myself and such stuff like that. So all the things with the data and data analytics and exploring the unknown is kind of what I am. It's the way I look at things, the way I look at the world, and I'm the guy who asks a lot of questions and tries to understand why things work the way they do. And just because I'm that type of person, the things I do with my business and data analytics and researching and stuff like that is something that's very close to me, and that's just once I start talking about it, I don't shut up, and it's mostly that.
No, that's great. I think, and it kind of makes sense, right? That you would be curious and want to like discover more. And we're gonna get into that now. But when you think about data analysis, it's all about digging in and getting answers to your questions, or more clearer answers, I would say, right? Because now it's not just, you're not just going off of what you feel or what you may think, or what your perception is, which when we talk about perception, it's based on your memories, on your past experiences, on what you think you may know, not what necessarily may be true. That's a deeper subject, but I think it has to do with that as well. So, okay, let's start with this. How do you approach like data analysis per se, right? So why don't we start with that? Like in terms of like taking on a new project, or somebody wants you to take on a new challenge in terms of data analysis, like what are these steps? Because I know a lot of the data analysis is about accuracy, efficiency, right? Or you could add on to that as well. Maybe it's a lot of other things, right? But what are some of the steps in terms of that approach to data analysis in your experience?
Well, the fundamental thing is in any kind of business and anything that people do is actually understanding what you want to do and what you want to find out. So the point on researching in data analytics, data science, all the things involved with data and finding something out is actually trying to learn something new. So when you know new information, you can actually do something very efficiently with them, solve a problem, build a house, whatever. Essentially, my approach to work is that I ask my client what's the goal, what that person wants to achieve, and what that client needs to know at the end of the analytical process. Because this is the question you want to ask as a researcher, as a data analyst. What's the problem you need to solve, and what's the knowledge you need to get? And once you know that, and when you start actually from the end, which is actually the ultimate goal you want to do, and when you start from the end, this is when you can actually start asking questions like, how am I going to achieve that? What am I going to measure? How am I going to measure something? Where will I get the data? What kind of data are there going to be? Is it going to be qualitative data, quantitative data? What kind of analysis am I going to implement? Once I get results, how am I going to present them to other people? Who am I going to present my results to? Because it's not the same if you present to a CEO of a company, of a supervisor board, or someone in the public administration. So this analytical procedure has its actually steps. It's a process that actually begins from asking the right question and then setting up these intermediary steps and milestones, saying, okay, I know this is a good sign. We are on a good way in this general pursuit of knowledge. Right?
Nice. And do you think? And I think this is a good question for a lot of people who are in different parts of their journey, right? Because we have people that are solopreneurs, other people who are have bigger companies. Do you see this whole aspect of data analysis as something that is beneficial for all different types of businesses, from small to large? Or do you see it more like, because a lot of people might think that data analysis is as you have more data, right, you have more insights that you want to acquire from that data. So people will assume that if you're a larger company, you have a larger database of information, so it's more beneficial for you. But really, is that the reality, or is it more that even a solopreneur, which I think, in my opinion, it is valuable, right? Because even a solopreneur has data points that they may not even realize. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, this is a good point. Because being a big company and having access to a lot of data in your CRM or anything doesn't mean the data are good. Depending on data analytics you want to do, and depending on the size of your company, there are different approaches. The ultimate idea in gathering the data, after you ask the right question you want to answer, there's an important step of gathering the data, and it's important to distinguish the concept of good data and a big data. A lot of data. Sorry, not big data. A lot of data, because the internet in general is full of information, and when you dig into a specific topic, this is actually when you find out that the relevant information is usually missing.
Yeah.
So you can spend hours Googling irrelevant information, but in order to find the right one. So this is actually the approach every entrepreneur should have in mind, that before going into any kind of analytical process of data analytics, data science, business analytics, or anything that's related to analytics, anything that's related to data, think about the quality of the data. Just because you have a huge CRM, a huge database with gigabytes and terabytes of data, doesn't mean that within these data you have the right information. Mm-hmm. So once you start Googling things and searching for things, these gigabytes and terabytes and petabytes of data become megabytes of data, which are actually relevant to you. And this is the idea that, well, I try to explain to my clients, and I advocate everywhere, is the fact that when you're asking the right question, this is something that leads you to a good information, to a good data, because you know what you're looking for.
I like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's all about, I like that because it's more focused on quality versus quantity, which I agree definitely with that. It's more about asking, like you said, the right questions, quality questions, and the more direct, the more intentional, the more you're clear, like you said in the beginning, about what the objective is, then the more better questions you can ask to then extract the right data. Because it's like you said, it's not about the amount of data, but the quality of what you're extracting. And and a part of that, from what I'm hearing, what you're saying, is a part of that process is understanding what you're looking for, and then being very clear on that, so that when you start to do that process of that analysis, you're getting the correct information. And in some cases, it may be actually counterproductive, right? As the big company becomes bigger and more data is there, it's sort of like you have to do more digging, right? And you have to be more precise with what you want to get from that data, maybe. But Filip, what are your thoughts so far? Filip.
Yeah, you both made a great points there. I'll put in parallel directly with decision making as a process business wise. I've encountered so many times businesses, no matter the size, from small businesses, medium businesses, solopreneurship, no matter, they don't have any kind of data. So you are making your decision based on what? And a lot of those businesses should be having as an integral part, practically as a foundation, starting any kind of business, proper analytic point of view, the right data in the process, so it is becoming and being a part, integral part of decision-making process. Because thumb times nail doesn't work. It's practically leaning on the sheer luck. And what is the result of that? Is it predictable? No, it is not. Once it was working for you, but it doesn't mean it will be doing the same the second, third, fourth, or fifth time. So that is what I see as a big lack. A lot of people are talking about the data, but only few are actually practicing within their business the right extraction and having quite high quality data, as you both mentioned.
That's interesting. Yeah, go ahead, Philip.
It's something that helps you actually making the right decision, and this is the point. Because if you ask the right question, you get the right ingredients. This is when you can make an appropriate decision. Yeah. Otherwise, because every time when you acquire good data, no matter how much of it, when you actually so imagine these good data as a big juicy lemon, right? So if you planned ahead and invested, and you got this big juicy lemon that grew on your tree, then you squeeze it, you get something out of it. Yeah. But otherwise, if you start picking all around, it can happen that you get a bunch of things in your data set, and when you try to extract something from them, when you try to extract the juice out of that lemon that's in your database or something, there's nothing you can get. And you've spent time, you've spent money, you paid external consultants or whatever, and in the end, you cannot make an adequate business decision.
I love that. No, and Philip knows I love metaphors. I love metaphors. Yeah, I've used it in the past on some of our episodes, like exactly the planting seeds metaphor. I've used it because I think it helps. I'm sort of like a philosopher at heart, so in some cases I love metaphors because it allows people to envision things in a different way. It makes it more simpler to digest per se. But I've used that metaphor planting seeds, and to take it even further, for what you said, I feel it's interesting because what you're basically saying is it's like if you're a company and you're looking for lemons, it's important that when you planted the seed that it was for a lemon tree. Right, you can't expect if you planted an orange or an apple tree to when it starts to sprout that it's gonna give you lemons. So it's I think it goes even deeper in that case where it starts with the end in mind, like you said, and that means your processes, right, for extracting data. What are they? What are the questions you're asking? How are you gathering that data? So it starts with that, I think, is what you're trying to say is. It starts from the beginning. How are you gathering that data? Because you could elaborate more on this. Is that like a crucial part of that process? Like gathering the data, where you're getting it from, how you're asking the questions, or the methods you're using to extract, right? Because that determines the quality, doesn't it? Like it's not the same if you were to buy data from an external source versus you set up a specific funnel that you devise that whole process yourself to make sure that it was the highest quality possible. There's a difference there, and that's where I see the metaphor of the tree that you're planting, right? Because it's not the same if you bought the data, they may be giving you an apple tree when you wanted a lemon tree, right? Is it that way?
Something like that. So you have to have in mind that the quality of data doesn't necessarily depend on the quality of the idea. So you can have an excellent idea that you want to research, that excellent problem that you want to solve, but maybe you can't find the data anywhere. So let me put it this way. So examine, you want to go in a completely new business area that nobody has been before. Mm-hmm. And if you want to gather information about it, there's not many sources you can gather information about it. So this is where it comes to this methodological part of how you gather the data. There are different approaches, qualitative information, like doing focus groups, interviews, and so on and so forth. You can do the content analysis. You take the documents or the legislative of some institution, and then you look into it. You can do quantitative things like giving people the questionnaires or doing online surveys or anything. You can use, it's called Amazon's metric, and stuff like that. But you have to know that every of these methodologies has its good sides and bad sides, and that methodology used to gather the data is like a tool in the kitchen. So, if you want to cut a cake, you're going to use one knife, but if you want to clean the fish, you're going to use something else. And sometimes if you're going into a business area that nobody's been before, and there are not a lot of people who know much about it, maybe it's better to do some kind of qualitative analytics to get to the content on something that's very scarce, but provides you deeper insights and deeper information. But again, if you want to predict the amount of sales on something that's very widespread, like, I don't know, there's been cryptocurrencies last year that's been very popular. Now it's in decline and so on and so forth. But there are a lot of data about cryptocurrencies. And just because of the big amount of that, and if you know which data to look for about cryptocurrencies, this is when you can solve a different business problem with some quantitative analytics and quantitative data.
That's a nice perspective. Yeah. What are your thoughts, Filip? And we'll soon be closing out. I have like one more thing for Filip, and then we'll close it out. But what are your thoughts, Filip, so far?
Yeah, absolutely. I can only confirm what Filip said. I'm always making the direct correlation with, as mentioned previously, the business decision process. Simply, the business owner in me is constantly here, levitating and being present. So that is very important, especially as mentioned previously. I saw way too often the situation in which there were not lack. The process was not existing. Even people had some kind of data, but there was no any kind of methodology in place, and the information they had, the data they had, it was simply unusable, completely unusable. And that is strange, because that I cannot say it is shocking me, but it is strange. If you are taking care of your company properly, then if you already have all the tools and trying to have all the tools in place, the analysis, data analysis, and extracting the right data is something which can only help you and support you, especially if we all are looking our careers and our businesses long term. If you want to strive forward, you need to be prepared for it. But a big chunk of companies don't know how to do proper analysis. They don't even engage with professionals who can truly help them and support them. And they're just there doing something hit and miss and trying numerous. It's like a 12-gauge shotgun style, and it's very, very often seen as a counterproductive approach for sure. On the opposite side, you have companies who are deeply engaged and heavily investing into the respectable realm in which Filip is a true professional. And that is the point, because as mentioned previously, that way you can build a solid rock pillars of your business, foundation, the proper ones, and go forward.
No, I like that, Filip. I like that you brought up predictability, because I think we haven't spoken about that too much. But when I analyze business in general, if we really think about it, predictability is probably one of the most biggest factors in any type of form of you trying to succeed in something. I mean, we check sports. If you're able to predict what your opponent will do against you, you have an edge to win, right? In business, if you're able to predict what may come, what risks may appear in the market that or opportunities, the opposite of that. If you're able to predict opportunities based on data, it gives you an edge or gives you some type of advantage. So I think that factor of predictability, we haven't even spoken about it, but I think it's a big part of data analysis, because the data analysis allows you to be more efficient and accurate with that predictability, if I'm not mistaken. And I think that's a big part of business success, is being able to have those methodologies in place, those structures, and that data analysis in place to be able to create this framework to predict certain things in your business or your niche, your business industry, that will help you gain an edge in some way over a competitor, or bring out a new product, a new service that nobody has noticed yet, and you're able to predict that. So I think that's big. And on that point, I wanted to ask you, Filip, on what is your advice for businesses in terms of them looking to integrate data analysis into their decision-making processes, and maybe some of your thoughts on what I just said on predictability per se.
So, in psychology, there's a saying that your past behavior predicts your future behavior. And that's usually true. But the point about data is that today we live in the world and the society in which we have huge amounts of data, and sometimes people think that data will solve every problem. But every person that works with data, and a company that works with data, or even wants to work with data in their company, has to be aware that data is not a holy cow, sacred cow. Every data you gather and information you gather, you have to put in the context of your company. You have to put it in the context of the country, of the international policy, and so on and so forth. It certainly will help you to predict some movements in the market. Data will definitely help you bring a sound decision on your future steps. But you should take your data and you should take your conclusions with cum grano salis, with a pinch of salt, because you can have the best model, predictive model or explanatory model or whatever, but you have to be aware that the model was created by a human being. And all the fears and all the prejudice and all the stereotypes that people have who created these models are embedded in the models. Mm-hmm. So if you read the European Commission data strategy, I think the document is called, there are some notes about AI models being biased to certain social groups while making the selection process in the employment, which means, humans make models. Humans aren't perfect, therefore their models aren't perfect. And always have in mind when you do that with the data, that your perception, your attitudes reflect in the way you interpret the data. So maybe you can find that companies in your the people in your company have stereotypes towards some social group, but you don't have stereotypes towards that social group or prejudice. And then, okay, we're going to change it. I won't care about that. Something like that. And this is my point. It's not a elixir of life data. It's just a tool to help you.
Exactly. Yeah. That you just can't solely depend on it for decision making, is what you're saying. And I know that goes Absolutely. back to the question on how people can incorporate it. So what you're saying to conclude is that data analysis is more so a tool in your toolbox that is required to help you get to that success that you're looking for. But it's one of the tools, right? It's not the tool that will get you there. I think that's important. It's a part of your business toolbox to help you get certain results, but it's not the sole and it's not the be end all end of it, right? You have to take into consideration those points you said, which I think is very interesting. And that could lead to another conversation for another podcast, because I think that would be a very interesting conversation, seeing your background, right, in psychology and working on data, what your thoughts are on artificial intelligence and its impact, and in terms of its impact on data, because some people may say that you may be replaced, Filip, and people may say that, right, that AI will eventually be able to do analysis for us and give us and spit out a report based on this information it collects very quickly that maybe a human may not be able to do, even though in my personal opinion, I think the human aspect of analysis, etc., and that consciousness that we have, the AI has not gotten to that level, so it cannot replace a lot of things yet. But that's another conversation. I think that would be a great conversation. Go ahead, Philip.
I'm definitely looking forward to this AI conversation thing. And artificial intelligence, isn't evolving as successful as humans have throughout the millennium and the thousands of years throughout human evolution. So it'll be many, many years that AI will be able to do things that human brain can. Because humans still have this level of self-criticism, and they can say, okay, stop, this is not working, we should do something else. And they have, this civilizational background and civilizational knowledge that transfers from one generation to another generation, which AI obviously doesn't have. So every AI system has to
Do you hear him, Philip, or is it me, or did he?
We lost Philip for a moment, I see.
Okay. I thought it was me. It was maybe me. Yeah, but we may have.
He's
okay,
back.
now you're back. Now you're back, Philip. We got you. You cut off for a little bit there. Yeah, the AI heard you and cut you off.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
I think he's having some issues there with the. I think we're having some issues with the signal there, Philip. Let us know if you hear us. I think now you're back. Talk to us, Philip, and see.
Yeah, I'm talking to you. I'm talking.
Great. No, yeah. So we can conclude now. Any last words, Filip Zolota, on the conversation today? So we'll start closing out this great conversation today.
Yeah, nothing special to add on. We have emphasized quite a bunch of interesting things, great points there. And also, simply due to the connection issue, it is clear that we have a preparation for the next session on the topic of AI for sure in the future. Yeah.
Yes. No, thank you, Philip, for jumping on and giving us more insights into data analysis. I think it's a very interesting conversation, especially for Philip and I, who are in marketing and understand the power of like being able to analyze and interpret data is very important in our field as well. So it's great to have had you on today. Thank you all for tuning in, who have tuned in for us today. And if you haven't subscribed, you can subscribe to stay up to date with all the other guests we're going to be bringing on and the next conversation with Philip on AI. So thank you all, and have a great day. Philip, double dose today. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
It's a pleasure seeing you guys. Take care.
It's been really nice talking to you guys. Thank you very much.
You too, Philip.
Bye-bye.
Bye.